My name is Paulina Yurman. I'm a product designer and a researcher. I'm a PhD student at Goldsmiths in the design department. I'm part of the Balance Network because I was the research associate of the Family Rituals project at the Royal College of Art in collaboration with the Culture Lab from Newcastle University. The workshop today was called Material Desires, and it was a design-led exploration workshop about the division between work and home life. And I created a series of design-led activities to try to explore the juggling of identities that many people go through on their daily lives. My PhD in itself is particularly interested in the juggling of identities that mothers and fathers go through, but I didn't want the workshop to be only about that. So the participants were also people without children, people who had to look after their pets or an elderly relative, and we had 16 participants. And there were some interesting conversations. I didn't want to impose too much my point of view, which is trying to assess whether designs should respond to the gender differences in the way that we relate to technologies. And I was wondering if gender would be a topic that would come up in the conversations. To my surprise, it didn't come up that much. I don't know if it was because people were being particularly polite or it just didn't come up. Towards the end, we did have some conversations, and that was quite interesting. One of the things that I found interesting that somebody commented on was allowing a little bit of chaos in the workshop. I was very conscious that people were being very generous with their time. So I wanted to fit everything and let people go home when the workshop ended. But there were times when there was not very much to do, and I kind of played it by ear. And at those moments, there were some interesting conversations. So that's something that I learned. So next time, maybe I'll let it a bit more free. I think I crammed a lot of stuff in, but it was good. There were a lot of things. I was worried that the people who are not designers were going to feel intimidated and not know what to do, but at the end it was great. So how people really just did things, and you don't have to be a designer to come up with new ideas, really.
Great. Well, yeah. Can I ask you, so what do you think the biggest challenge is in the area of work-life balance and digital technologies? Where do you think there should be a focus going forward by employers, by government, by policymakers, by individuals, by academics? Where do you think we should be focusing?
Well, I think that everybody has a different strategy of how they manage their work-life balance, and this strategy changes all the time. And I'm talking from my own experience, but also from talking to other people, from things that I've read, and allowing for people to find their own strategy. For example, when I was working at the RCA, commuting was a bit of a challenge because I was on the other side of town. So working more from home and actually to be trusted, to have that flexibility and to be trusted was essential to the project. I could not have done the project without that. But obviously that relied on working with a co-investigator who was aware of that and who was who trusted me entirely. So I think flexibility and trusting employees to find their own way is crucial. Then in terms of technology, I mean, we're all aware that the way that technology has blurred the boundaries between work and life has had effects, and that has effects in everybody in the family and in everybody. And I'm talking from the point of view of adults and children, and which is the area that I'm investigating. But it's here to stay. So how we're going to manage that is something I think we're still all learning. So one of the things that came up today is how people, the issue of health, how people, when there came a point when they felt that their health was, they were starting to have some health problems, then they had to create a very strict division between home and work life. And that's how they found their balance. But I think that's kind of changes all the time. There was an issue as well to do with parenthood. So somebody mentioned how they, if they talk too much about their family life at work, that kind of it affects the way that others perceive them as professionals. So they try not to talk too much about it, but they would talk about work when they're at home. But then somebody who has to look after some animals, they didn't feel that. Somehow the fact that we have the role of being a parent and being a worker somehow is a little bit more complicated, whereas if we have to look after an animal, somehow it's more accepted and people don't feel that it compromises their professional persona.